one point up. You brought up
I'll tell you what, Mohammed,
the Taliban.
Let's just hear the answer to that, because
Yeah,
that's
well,
important.
first of all, I would say that, jihad is an obligation binding upon Muslims, which is defense of the homelands. It's also the removal of aggression. But the normative practice of the Muslims has always been that aggression is prohibited. The Quran is very clear on that. La ta'tadu, don't be aggressive in your wars. The Quran says if they incline towards peace, then you too should incline towards peace. The Quran permits, and certainly in traditional jurisprudence, the treaties with non-Muslim nations, and those treaties are to be honored. You will find differing views, there is no doubt, because like I said earlier, Islam is not theocratic in we know exactly what God meant, but it's human attempts at understanding what God means. And that is why, first of all, most of those laws that deal with international relations, that deal with these, have nothing to do with your average Muslims. And when your average Muslims begin to take it upon themselves to implement laws that have to do with state polity and state power, this is where the confusion comes in. It's none of the average Muslim's business to be attempting to apply laws that are directed to the rulers of a country. And this is what's known in the Islamic tradition as fard ayn and fard kifaya. An ayn, everybody has to do it, like praying 5 times a day, paying zakat, these things. Kifaya, only those people that need to do it. The other people don't do it. And certainly in rules relating to government, that has nothing to do with the common people.
But I can see where the confusion would lie, though. I mean, if you're advocating that people do read these texts,
no, but if they read them
without
qualified teachers, absolutely, you're going to have serious problems. You can't just pick up a book and read it. Look, in England, no one will allow a barrister who has not been trained in law school to go out and practice law. And constitutional law is certainly, you have to know interpretive practices, hermeneutics. You have to learn how to derive principles. I mean, if we had people reading a book on surgery and going out and performing surgery on people out in the society, it's madness. And so, this idea that I can pick up my book and become a weekend mufti is absolute insanity.
The GMC is very busy dealing with some of those cases to do with medicine at the moment. Mohammed,
can I just come back to one point, please?
Of course you can, and then I want to ask you a question myself.
Okay, the point being, I'm not. What I'm trying to say, for instance, you mentioned the Taliban themselves. The thing about the Taliban is that they were a government. They were Taliban, which means students. They didn't pick up books and just apply Islamic law. They were advised by Islamic scholars of a certain tradition in Pakistan, the Deobandi school. They themselves have scholars, and they interpreted their understanding of Islam and applied it on their nation, and that was condemned by the rest of the world. Yet from their perspective, they were implementing Islamic law through qualified opinion, and their interpretation has been accepted by a lot of Muslims in the world. And it's an interpretation, and if they are condemned, you're forcing people who accept that interpretation into an extremist camp. And who decides ultimately?
Do you feel, Mohammed, that you are either tempted or you feel obliged to follow a jihad because of what you've read and because of what you believe you've been told?
No,